About 14 years ago, I lived in a house in Oregon. It's a strange house. Pretty large, with a nice wraparound deck. A big backyard, and at the time, 2 big buildings in the backyard that made nice clubhouses. There were 2 bedrooms on the ground level that shared a walk-in closet, and 3 bedrooms downstairs with another room I'd call a large storage room or closet. The downstairs wasn't quite a basement, since it was only partially buried underground. Now, usually things were cool. My room was downstairs and had 2 windows that were at the ground level, so they were pretty near the ceiling for me. They were tiny half windows, really. At times, I could hear shit in the walls that I was convinced were mice. It sounded as if they were sliding a piece of wood back and forth in the wall. Maybe they were playing a form of mouse soccer or something. At any rate, it didn't scare me at all until one night, maybe 3 or 4 months after we'd been living there. That's when the weird crap started to happen. It started in my room. I was sleeping soundly when something started scratching at my window. Being high above my bed, it was hard to see, but there was a light in the backyard and my TV was on, so I could just make out the face of what appeared to be a dog, or some kind of animal looking in the window. It was sniffing at the window, and making a rather violent half-snort, half-growling noise. Needless to say, this scared me senseless and I bolted upstairs. At this point, I should note some oddities of the evil room next to mine, as seen in this diagram. For whatever reason, we could not keep a light on in this room for very long. Any light bulb in the room would burn out within minutes of being replaced. Any lamps on extension cords placed into the room from known working sockets would also experience this strange burnout. Any flashlights you took into the room would burn out within a minute or 2. You could simply not keep lights on in this room. And there was always a draft in the room, despite there being no vent for the AC and it being in the corner of the back part of the house, completely underground, with no windows at all. It was always noticeably cooler in the room, and it was oftentimes damp. At night, I could always hear the dripping of water coming from the room. It had no rugs, just concrete, and there was always a puddle on the ground, but there was no damage to the ceiling, so we couldn't tell where the water was coming from. Presumably, the dripping noise was the source of the puddle of water, but as there was no water damage anywhere, it was tough to say where the actual source was. I once cleaned up and dried the puddle out. It never dripped during the day, or when someone was in the room. I then put a box over the area to see where the water was coming from. In the morning, I found the box bone dry, but a brand new puddle was under it, complete with the obnoxious drip, drip of the night before. I think the worst feature of the rooms in the basement was that none of them actually had a door. So my room looked just inside the evil room of evils at all hours. Now this is where things get a little creepy. Days after I saw the dog, or whatever it was in the window, I woke up to the strangest sound. I heard whispering coming from the room. Maybe a whisper is the wrong way to describe it, as there was definitely a tone to the voices, but they were so low, I couldn't make out what they were saying. It was clearly more than one person, and they ended when I made a sound. This happened often enough that it became an annoyance instead of just creepy. I'd even gotten to the point where I'd yell at the room to shut the hell up just so I could get back to sleep. From time to time, I'd hear what sounded like a large bag or box being pulled across the floor in the room, and strange sniffling noises, but these were less frequent than the very light whisperings. This all culminated one night in what remains to this day the most blood-chilling experience of my life. I had become used to the whispering at this point, and it didn't scare me much anymore. But not this time. I woke up to something at the window again. Only whatever it was just tapping lightly on the window pane. From the evil room, I could see a red-orange glow, as if there was a fire in the room. Just as I had noticed the glow, I heard a very loud clattering sound, as if someone were throwing tools or something around in that room. Then I heard the same voices I had heard whispering, only now they were yelling as if having a fight. It got so loud I doubt they would have even heard me if I yelled at them to shut up. The sense of hatred and dread coming from the direction of the room was almost physical enough to choke on. Remember, my door is right next to the door of the evil room, so escape, while attractive, was also quite a scary prospect. I stood on my bed, the sound of something tapping at the window behind me, and the fight or whatever it was going on in the next room. I was unsure what to do. I finally made up my mind to make a break for it. I grabbed some scissors from the table next to the bed as some sort of weapon, and as I was about to jump, whatever it was in the window made a screeching sound. Kind of like the cry a rabbit makes when it's being dragged off to be eaten. That was all I could stand, and I was airborne. I leapt off my bed, ran past the door to the evil room, doing my best not to catch even a peripheral glance in the room, as I tore up towards the stairs. I heard something in the room make a mad dash after me. I was absolutely terrified at this point, and I had never climbed stairs so fast in my life. I reached the top door, ripped it open, and ran towards my older sister's room. I flew over her, into the corner of her bed, and put my back up against the wall. It woke her up and scared her half to death. She told me later that I was white as a ghost. I told her what I had heard and what I saw downstairs. At that point, my mom had come up the stairs. She had apparently not noticed a thing and was wondering what the hell was going on. I told her all about it, and she wrote it off as nothing, but she agreed to go check it out with me. I exchanged my scissors for a large knife from the kitchen, and we went downstairs together. Only there was no light, no sound. Nothing could be seen or heard in the room at all. There was nothing at my window either. There was zero evidence that I wasn't crazy. I still slept in the living room for 2 weeks straight, though. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this story, hit that like button. Consider sharing and subscribing to the channel to be alerted to new uploads. If you'd like to see something specific on my channel, leave a comment below and I will look into it. Good night, everyone.